When God gave the promise to Abraham, that he said, Abraham, I'm going to make you the father of many nations. He was 65 years old. Sarah was 55. Now you think about that. Now I don't know about you folks. And I don't know about old Uncle Abe. But if God spoke to me, Brother Sample, and I'm 65 years old and he says, I'm going to give you a son, I'd say, somebody shoot me right now. You understand what I'm talking about? But I can see him. I can see old Uncle Abe right now. I can just see him now. You know, they were having church out under the big stars in the tent. And Abraham and Sarah was there, and probably the preacher got up and said, anybody got a testimony? And old Abraham said, oh, I've got a testimony. I had a visitation from God. God promised me that I was going to be the father of many nations. In fact, he even changed my name from Abram to Abraham, from prince to the father of many nations. He said, I've even told my 3,000 servants to not call me Abram no more, but to call me Abraham. I've got a promise from God that Sarah's going to be pregnant and she's going to bear a son and we're going to be the father of many nations. I can just see them now. Oh, there was 5 people jumped up and started running around the church. 5 fell out under the power of God. 3 began to speak in tongues and the preacher didn't get to preach that night. Well, 10 years, 15 years passed. Abraham's back in church. Pastor says, how? Anybody got a testimony? Oh, Abraham said, how? Pastor, I've got a testimony. Even though it's been 15 years, even though it's been that long, God promised me a son. God promised me a son, and I'm staying faithful to the promise. Well, a lot of people probably shouted that time, but the preacher's got to preach. And then 25 years passed. And then 35 years passed. Abraham's in that same meeting. He stands up. He says, I've got a testimony. And you can hear him in the back. Oh, he's not going to talk about that child. Come on, he's not going to talk about it. Listen, God's talking to some of you. Because he's promised you things. Moms and dads, he's promised you things about your children. And you just let them go to seed. And you haven't done anything about it. You haven't started professing to hold fast, smack down to the mark of promise that the God of heaven has given you. Amen. Well, Abraham stood there. I just see him now in the congregation. Oh, man, he ain't going to talk about that kid. Sure, he ain't going to talk about that kid. And then Sarah, she gets this wild idea. She says, hey, listen. You know, you're 85 and I'm 75. And I'm still looking good, but I'm past bearing children. So I got this 31-year-old gal waiting on me. Hagar's her name. And why don't you just go sleep with her? Can I get real? Huh? Let me tell you something right now. When God gives you a promise, there'll always be a Hagar and an Ishmael to try to come and take the reality of that miracle and that promise out of your heart and your life.
Yes, amen.
Do you hear what I'm telling you?
Amen.
Now, ladies, you help me with this, okay? What Sarah was really trying to say is, Abraham, I want you to stand up and be the real head of the household, okay? And say, you know what? I'm going to wait on the promise. You're the only woman for me. Come on now, you women. Hello? Can I get a better amen than this? I'm telling you. You know, I got a ticket in the morning back to Daytona. So listen to this. And you know what Abraham does? He says, all right. Now let me ask you something. What does an 85-year-old man on vitamins woods in Jericho have to do with a 31-year-old gal that's looking for a belly button? Come on! Let's get real here. But you see, there was a lot of things going on. Hagar had Ishmael. Now, according to Jewish rite, at 13, you become not an adolescent, but a man, right? They have a bar mitzvah. It's a Jewish rite. It's passed on. All this time, you got to listen to several things here. One, Sarah said, the Lord had made me barren. Wrong. God didn't make her barren. Adam made her barren. Now, who was Hagar hanging out with? Sarah, right? For 15 years, Ishmael was 15 years old. You can go back and read for yourself. Starts in Genesis 12. He was 15 years old when Isaac became 13 years old. So he was born 2 years before Isaac. All of that time, Ishmael was following Abraham around. It was Abraham's responsibility to teach his son the things of God. Now, why am I doing this? Can I teach you something here? Will you listen to this?
Yeah.
Now, after Ishmael was born, God spoke to Abraham, and he said, make a covenant with me. You know what the covenant was? Covenant of circumcision. And after he made that covenant with Abraham, then Isaac was born under the covenant. Ishmael was not born under the covenant. That means he didn't have the covenant rights.
Amen.
Hello?
Yes.
Come on now. Truth is truth. And so here he is. Sarah comes to him and says, honey, Hagar has given me a rough time. And I'm despised in her eyes. I want you to get rid of her. And you have to understand, according to historical research, Abraham was the Bill Gates of his day.
Yeah.
He had 3,000 servants to take care of his cattle, his sheep, and his animals. Now, if one cowboy can take care of 100 cows, you can count how many. Ooh, well, I can't count how many animals Abraham had. He had a slew of them. And he says, all right, not a problem. You know what he did? Now, he could have set Ishmael up for life, but what did he do? He kicked her out. He gave her a loaf of bread and a jug of water. That's good old Abraham. Now, he could have said, listen, he had enough money that he could have burned a wet mule. He could. I'm telling you, this man was rich. But yet he sends Hagar and Ishmael out into the wilderness, one loaf of bread and a jug of water. You say, shame on him. Everybody say it with me. Shame on him.